Right now, somewhere in the world, someone is holding a drink, lighting something, or swallowing a pill to feel different than they did 5 minutes ago. It feels like a modern habit, a weekend thing, a choice you make in a bar or at a party. But the urge underneath it, the desire to change your own consciousness, is not modern at all. It may not even be human. It might be older than humans. To find the real first drug, we have to go back further than any civilization, further than agriculture, further than fire. We have to go back roughly 10 million years to a small primate moving through an African forest. This creature wasn't looking to get intoxicated, it was just looking for food. Ripe fruit rotting on the forest floor naturally ferments, producing small amounts of ethanol as sugars break down. Biologist Robert Dudley proposed something called the drunken monkey hypothesis to explain what happened next. Primates that could smell and metabolize that ethanol got an advantage, a reliable way to detect ripe, calorie-rich fruit from a distance. Genetic research points to a mutation in a liver enzyme called ADH4, appearing in the primate lineage around 10 million years ago. That single mutation made ethanol break down 40 times faster in the body, letting ancestors of humans and great apes eat fermented fruit without getting dangerously impaired. In other words, the ability to process alcohol wasn't invented by humans at all. It was already built into us before we were even human. So if we're honest about it, the first drug wasn't chosen. It was inherited, sitting quietly in our biology for millions of years. But there's a difference between a body that can survive alcohol and a mind that deliberately goes looking for it. And that shift from accident to intention is where the real story starts. The oldest confirmed evidence of humans deliberately brewing alcohol comes from Jiahu in China, dated to around 7000 BC. Archaeochemist Patrick McGovern analyzed pottery residue there and found a fermented mixture of rice, honey, and fruit, essentially an early wine. This wasn't an accident of rotting fruit anymore. This was a recipe, repeated on purpose, refined across generations. But alcohol wasn't the only mind-altering substance early humans figured out how to use. Around the same broad era, on the other side of the world, humans were experimenting with something entirely different, plants that didn't need to ferment at all. Cannabis seeds have been found at archaeological sites in Asia, dating back to roughly 8100 BC, among the earliest physical evidence of the plant appearing alongside human activity. Thousands of years later, at an altar in the ancient Israelite temple of Tel Arad, dated to around the 8th century BCE, archaeologists detected burnt cannabis residue directly on the stone surface. That residue tells us cannabis wasn't just growing wild nearby. It was deliberately burned indoors as part of a religious ritual. Half a world away and centuries later, at the Jirzankal Cemetery high in the Pamir Mountains, archaeologists uncovered wooden burners containing cannabis residue, roughly 2,500 years old. That cannabis had unusually high levels of THC, suggesting the people burning it may have specifically sought out more potent plants, not just whatever grew nearby. The historian Herodotus, writing around the same period, described a strikingly similar ritual among the Scythians, who inhaled the smoke from burning hemp seeds during mourning ceremonies. So by this point in history, across 3 completely different regions, cannabis had already become deliberate, ritualized, and specifically sought out for its psychoactive effect. But cannabis and alcohol weren't the only substances ancient humans turned to for altering the mind. In the deserts of what is now Texas along the Rio Grande, archaeologists have identified peyote buttons at Neolithic sites containing the psychoactive compound mescaline. Peyote doesn't offer any nutritional value. Nobody eats it by accident while foraging for food. Its presence at these sites means someone specifically sought it out, prepared it, and consumed it for the altered state it produces. Further south, chemical analysis of ancient South American mummies has revealed cocaine metabolites in hair and tissue samples, evidence of coca leaf chewing stretching back thousands of years. Coca leaves contain a mild stimulant when chewed slowly, nothing close to processed cocaine, but still a substance actively sought for its effect on energy and endurance at high altitude. For a long time, most of this evidence came from residue on pottery, on altars, inside burners, indirect traces of something that had already burned away. Then, in a cave called Escarix on the Spanish island of Minorca, archaeologists found something far more direct. Strands of human hair, roughly 3,000 years old, sealed inside small tubular containers made of wood and antler. Prehistorian Elisa Guerradoce and her team tested that hair and found psychoactive alkaloids embedded directly in it. This wasn't residue on a shared surface that many people might have touched. This was chemical proof, absorbed into a specific person's own body. It remains one of the first direct confirmations that a named individual 3,000 years ago had consumed mind-altering substances themselves. So, what was the actual first drug humans ever used? If we're talking about the first altered state, it goes back roughly 10 million years, to a primate ancestor eating fermented fruit off a forest floor and a lucky mutation that let the habit stick. If we're talking about the first deliberately brewed substance, it's the rice, honey, and fruit wine fermented at Jiahu, China, around 7000 BC. If we're talking about the first plant, specifically grown or gathered for its psychoactive effect, cannabis and peyote both push that timeline back into the Neolithic, thousands of years before any written word, and if we're talking about the first proof absorbed into an actual human body, that title currently belongs to a person who lived on a small Mediterranean island 3,000 years ago. What's striking isn't any single answer. It's how consistent the pattern is across every continent, every era, every unrelated culture. Humans in ancient China had no contact with humans in ancient Texas. Neither had contact with the people burning cannabis in the Pamir Mountains, and yet, independently, over and over again, across thousands of miles and thousands of years, human beings arrived at the same idea. Find something that changes how your mind feels and use it deliberately, sometimes for ritual, sometimes for grief, sometimes simply to feel something different for a while. That drive appears to run deeper than any single culture, deeper than agriculture, possibly deeper than the species itself. Long before anyone wrote a word down, long before anyone built a city, something in us was already reaching for a way to feel altered and refuse